Hi, I'm Matt Dana, managing partner of Dana Whiting Law, and I'm joined today by my favorite partner, Mr. Trevor Whiting.
Hey, I like that title.
Actually, not my favorite. Todd Smith is, but get over yourself. But anyway,
Most handsome
yeah,
partner.
there you go.
Yeah.
Our partner, our viewers out there, Trevor, I think we're getting over 500,000 views. I think probably 60-70% of that's been you and I. So maybe you're getting to be famous out there. You have an agent yet?
No, I need to hire my agent. Yeah.
So, Trevor, you know what, when we get together, we like to talk about nerdy stuff, and we like to throw a lot of tax in here. And if I throw out some code sections, you can start slobbering on the table here in a minute. But we're going to talk about what I'm calling a Tier 3 client. And if you remember, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 years ago, I wrote an article of 3 tiers of estate planning. And Todd was in here a little bit earlier, and we talked a lot about Tier 1 and Tier 2. And I've always listed Tier 3 as, in my mind, it's going to be, a high net worth client. And everybody has a different definition of what a high net worth is. But I think in the industry, it's probably in that 25 million to 50 million range. These strategies are advanced. And if you were going to talk about a downside to them, they're more complex to understand. They certainly cost more to implement. They probably have an ongoing maintenance charge to them. You can't put these Tier 3 strategies, in a drawer and forget about it. But I guess that's my first question for you. Why is it that Tier 3 is so much more complicated and expensive?
I think, it goes to us being tax nerds, right, Matt? I mean, you and I both have, spent a lot of our career just studying these concepts and the strategies that can be used to help save on taxes. And, it takes additional knowledge, additional expertise. And, we had to put in more time and effort to get to where we were comfortable advising clients on those. And so, our expertise comes with a price but in addition to that, there's more moving parts. With what we call a core estate plan, we have a revocable trust, will, powers of attorney, and keep it very basic. But on these ultra high net worth or Tier 3 type planning strategies, we might have multiple trusts. We have documents that document transfers between those trusts as installment sales or as gifts and things like that. And so there's more documents, there's more complexity, more moving parts, and it takes more expertise and greater benefit and value to our clients. Some of these clients we're saving millions of dollars of taxes, and that's a huge benefit that they're receiving.
Yeah, it's not like, I don't like the client that comes in and wants to hide the ball from us. And, I'm not going to tell you what my net worth is. And that type of client believes that when they say a number, then we're going to automatically quote a fee just based upon that number, and they're not going to get any more added value. Well, that's so far from the truth, right? So as we talk about in core estate planning, we can give you a number, and if your estate's in that, we're talking about $500,000 to $10 million. Your general core documents are going to be somewhere between $5,000 and $8,000. I mean, that's pretty well understood. But you come in and you're worth say 50 million to 100 million. There's maybe 15 different strategies you could do that are very complex. How many of those strategies do you put in play this year? How many do you push off for next year? What's the urgency in all this? And it's like, that's what makes it more expensive. And I also like the way you talked about kind of, in our world, we call it value billing, right? I mean, it's like a doctor isn't paid by the hour to do the surgery. And this surgery takes 1 hour, and this surgery takes 1 hour. And this surgery was a brain surgeon, and this guy was removing tonsils. They both took an hour, but there's going to be more on that. And you can go to our website, you can see our credentials, right? We both have master's degree from New York University, Beyond Law School, MBA. We've got these credentials, and we've literally, studied this for a lifetime. These are not easy strategies. And that's what you and I like about tier 3. There's no top to what we can learn. There's no top to the net worth of our clients. And you get into these clients that are worth hundreds of millions, and we're saving them hundreds of millions. What is that worth? Now, let's talk about typical type of tier 3 strategies. And, in tier 2, I talked about a strategy's fairly easy to implement. It's kind of a one and done. There's no maintenance charge to it. It's not terribly burdensome on a client. But in tier 3, yeah, these are complex. And there's maintenance. And, unfortunately, they are hard to understand. Now, that's where we think that the videos we're producing, we do our best job to help people understand these complex strategies. And Trevor, I've heard from some of these people that have hired us, that's what they like, is we can take these complicated strategies and talk about them in a way that people can understand them. And, we write tons of articles and we give seminars. Somebody's talking about, I want to use the term estate planning 202, and one of our social media guys out here said, well, that sounds too much like they're going to school. And I'm saying that's exactly what we're trying to convince. If you're doing these strategies in 202, you've got to kind of understand and read. And this isn't you just walk in and we're going to tell you take these 5 pills and come back in the morning.
And you got to lay that foundation, and then to get ready for 303 if you need it. Right. And so yeah, there is an ongoing maintenance and ongoing expense related to a lot of these strategies, because there's ongoing responsibilities with these strategies. A lot of the, we talk about freeze techniques in some of our other videos, and there's an annual payment component on those, or maybe on a charitable remainder trust or a charitable lead trust, there's an annual payment that has to be made, and so there's a lot of coordination with the tax the CPAs and the financial advisors that we want to make sure we collaborate and everybody's on the same page with those, and so you have to have that foundational understanding and go through estate planning 101 and estate planning 202, and then to be at estate planning 303 or these tier 3 strategies, and they are going to cost more money, but they're providing more benefits.
Huge benefits. And and I tell clients, it's you got to understand the IRS. They're a little bit ticked off that they're not going to get $20-30 million when this guy dies. If it was so easy that you take this pill and you got it done, the IRS would never collect anything. So, and I think sometimes these strategies, they're in there for Congress, right? Congress tends to be wealthier people, and the wealthy people don't pay tax in this country, do they, Trevor? They afford guys like us that know the loopholes and get around it. It's kind of the guy that should be doing planning that doesn't. But Trevor, what would you rattle off as far as what type of strategies you would consider to be a tier 3 strategy? Let's just rattle some of those off. We'll talk about some of them.
Yeah, some of those would be, gifting to an irrevocable trust or to a SLAT is one of our common.
Or spousal trust, right?
Spousal trust.
A green box we talk about.
A green box or an installment sale to one of those green boxes.
So the first thing we'd talk about, it would be creating an irrevocable trust. Quite different than tier 1 where you're creating revocable trust. So
right.
Something irrevocable, we're going to gift to it, we're going to sell to it. What other type of tier 3 strategies?
Others would be, charitable trust, like a charitable remainder trust or a charitable lead trust.
Or a family foundation.
Family foundation. But also, as we're doing these transactions, we usually are going to put together family limited partnership or family LLC.
We talked about the squeeze, right? What's the squeeze?
Like the squeeze, we like to put assets into a family entity that's going to be subject to these valuation discounts that we've talked about before. And get that squeeze before we do these freezes, whether it's a gift or a sale.
Yeah.
And so, that'd be part of those tier 3 strategies. And then there's a whole host of others that are, very specific to your different client situations. You might do a non-grantor trust for a specific situation, or, just all kinds of other strategies that we could get into.
Yeah.
That have very specific applications. And like you said, when we meet with a client and go through this process of designing the plan or strategizing what we might implement, at the end of the day, we put together a nice written proposal of what our recommendations would be. And we outline and say, you could do A, B, and C, or, D, E, and F. And sometimes the clients choose to do all of them. Sometimes they say, let's just pick and choose and do these ones. And because they each have their own application, they have pros and cons, they have benefits and costs. And we can help walk that client through that process of understanding these are the ones that we recommend for your situation, and maybe we don't need to consider or think about these other ones.
I think on our webpage, I wrote some bullet points of what makes high net worth planning quite different. And I talk about how these trusts tend to be multi-generational. And we use the term generation skipping to mean that they can go from generation to generation without any estate tax. I talk about how the client is more charitably inclined because they get the tax benefits from that. I talk about where the client realizes what type of wealth they're going to give to their child or their children. And some of the biggest concerns, Trevor, we have of these high net worth clients is that their kids are going to get too much too soon and not know what to do with it, make horrible decisions. So we always talk about putting bumper guards into these types of plans. I think, I wrote the article about planning with purpose. I think that an estate plan should be more than just I die, give it to my kids, and they go home with a wheelbarrow full of cash. I want to have some purpose. I want to have more of that charitable. I want to maybe create some incentives for the kids and the grandkids. But this is all kind of this tier 3 type stuff, and part of the issue, Trevor, even to get to the client where they can understand it to the level they can make an intelligent decision, right? Our job isn't to make a decision. Our job is to make sure that they can make an intelligent decision, understanding what their options are. And generally speaking, we charge a flat fee to have 5 sessions with the client, and it's going to take all of those 5 sessions, right? And
right.
There's going to be, each one of these sessions is going to be an hour, and each session will be probably 2 weeks apart. And we're going to make it a 202 where we're going to give them articles and videos to read and study and be prepared when we come to these sessions. And it really is this process. It takes that much before a client can really understand, is this a yay or nay strategy?
Right.
Is there anything else that you want to bring up about, tier 3, and then we'll cut it off here. But I think it's been a good discussion so far.
Yeah, I think it's a good discussion of the process that, our clients go through with us. We've got other good videos and articles on, a lot of those strategies, the squeeze, freeze, and please. And
yeah.
I think I do have clients that ask, what is it going to be like working with you? And I think we've kind of outlined that, what we want to do is we're going to educate, we're going to help you understand the issues that you have and the solutions that are available to address them. And then we're going to lay out a plan of our recommendations and help you make the best decision for each client's specific
and we're
situation.
going to end up with a written proposal of 25, 30 pages. They bring your CPA into it. Bring your financial guy into the discussion. At this level, too, I think I'm right that it's a very collaborative process. It isn't
right.
You meet with one guy and do this. It's a whole process.
Yep.
Well, thanks for your time today.
Hey, always fun to do a video with you, Matt.